This tale narrates the story of Samia Shahid, a British woman of Pakistani descent who was discovered deceased in Pakistan in the year 2016. Samia wed her first cousin through an arranged marriage, but later divorced him and clandestinely married another man. Her family disapproved of this act. During a visit to Pakistan, Samia passed away under mysterious circumstances. Initially deemed a natural death, further investigation revealed signs of foul play. The case shed light on the issue of honor killings and cultural conflicts within immigrant communities. Samia Shahid was born on the 15th of November 1987 in Bradford, West Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Bradford, the sixth largest city in England, is renowned for its ethnically diverse population, with a significant South Asian community. Samia's parents, Chaudhry Muhammad, father, and Imtiaz, mother, immigrated to the UK from a small village called Pandori in Pakistan. Like many others, they sought better opportunities for themselves and their family. Samia had a sister named Medea. The girls grew up in Bradford under the influence of a blend of British and Pakistani cultures. As second-generation immigrants, they navigated between these two cultural worlds, striving to preserve the values and traditions of their Pakistani heritage while adapting to the realities of Western society. The Shahid family and their relatives were quite prominent in Bradford due to the numerous businesses they managed. Samia's parents owned a limousine and car rental business. One of her uncles ran a fish and chip shop, while another uncle owned a flower shop. Samia's mother, Imtiaz, had 5 brothers, all well known in the local community. Thus, Samia had many cousins, nieces, and nephews, and she adored her large family. Samia was known for being very friendly, cheerful, and lively, always wearing a smile. Above all, she adored her father, and was a daddy's girl. Chaudhry Muhammad's word was law to her. She was willing to do whatever he asked, and her father reciprocated this love. Although Samia and Medea were given the opportunity to receive a Western education, considering they lived in the UK, the Shahid family valued Pakistani culture and remained devoted to their Muslim faith. They were Sunni Muslims. Sunni Islam is one of the 2 main branches of Islam, alongside Shia Islam, and the majority of Muslims identify as Sunnis. Character traits and life of Samia had a vibrant and multifaceted personality. She loved fast driving, although she was not allowed to drive. Despite this, she sometimes rented a car and drove recklessly, pressing the gas pedal without hesitation. Samia enjoyed taking care of her appearance, applying makeup and styling her hair. She worked part-time at the Bradford post office, although in reality, her father financed her, sparing no expense for his beloved daughter's desires. Samia got almost everything she wanted. However, despite outward freedom, the main and undeniable value for the sisters was family. In Pakistani culture, family always comes first, above all else. And although it seemed that Samia got everything she wanted, her family's approval was most important to her. Any decision she had to make had to be first approved by her parents and elder family members. Samia deeply loved her family and did not want to disappoint them, so she could never be completely open with them. She had to hide many things to avoid her father's anger. For example, her passion for fast-driving cars, arranged marriage with Shakil. In 2012, when Samia turned 25, her parents decided it was time for her to grow up. The free life in Western society was bound to end sooner or later. Her mother, Imtiaz, insisted that Samia go to Pakistan to get married according to tradition. Arranged marriages are still quite common in Pakistani culture, and although Sunni Islamic faith does not strictly require it, it is still encouraged. So it was not surprising when Samia's parents approached her with a proposal to marry a specific man. Samia agreed not because she wanted to, but because she considered it important for her family. She took her culture and heritage seriously and did not want to disappoint her parents. Samia wanted her family to be proud of her. In February 2012, it was decided that Samia would marry a man named Chaudhry Muhammad Shakil. Shakil was not someone Samia would have chosen as a husband. He was from their village Pandori in Pakistan and was Samia's cousin. She had known him since childhood and always considered him a brother, not a future husband. Moreover, he had just been released from prison for shooting another man in a land dispute. Marriages between relatives, such as cousins, are quite common among British Pakistanis. This is mainly done to preserve property rights within the family, thereby expanding family holdings. Samia's parents were also cousins who had an arranged marriage and made their married life happy. To prepare for the wedding, Samia was taken to various Pakistani shops to buy everything she wanted: luxurious clothing, fashionable jewelry, and appropriate accessories. Her father, Muhammad, paid for all of this. Samia enjoyed shopping and tried to approach the planning of the future wedding with enthusiasm. But deep down, she knew that money couldn't buy happiness. She was not truly happy with the choice of husband made by her parents, but at that moment, she had to accept it. Wedding and early months of marriage. In mid-February 2012, as Samia boarded the plane to fly to Pakistan, she wrote a message to a friend, confessing that she was making the biggest mistake of her life and could not believe it was happening. When Samia first arrived in Pakistan to meet her future husband Shakil, she wrote to her friends that she could not even look at him and was relieved that she was not repulsed by her fiancé. Despite these feelings, Samia and Shakil had a lavish wedding. Many guests from Bradford traveled to Pakistan to congratulate the young couple and celebrate this joyous occasion. On the 27th of February 2012, a 4-day ceremony began, attended by over 1,000 guests. As a wedding gift, Muhammad gave the newlyweds their own house next to the family home in Pandori. After the wedding, Samia and Shakil moved into this house and lived together as husband and wife. The young wife could not come to terms with the idea of changing her life and settling in this small village. Nevertheless, Samia lived in this house with her husband for 4 months before returning to Bradford in June 2012, without her husband. Shakil stayed in Pakistan, awaiting immigration documents. Samia returned to England to apply for a spousal visa for her husband to become a British citizen, but she did not rush with this. Samia and Shakil's wedding in Pakistan was a nikah ceremony, a formal marriage contract according to Muslim customs. According to Sharia principles, this is considered a registered marriage and involves an agreement between the man and woman made in front of witnesses and a religious official. However, British law requires specific legal steps to recognize such a marriage. One of them is the conduct of a civil ceremony in the United Kingdom and obtaining a marriage certificate, which legally confirms the marriage. Therefore, a marriage was not considered legitimate in another country without official documentation. Marital dissatisfaction. Upon returning to the United Kingdom, Samia's friends noticed a change in her behavior. It was evident that she was concealing her distress from her parents. Samia became nervous and agitated when discussing her husband, Shakil. She felt that he was constantly monitoring her. Despite being in another country, Shakil insisted that she call him daily via video chat on Skype and maintain communication throughout most of the day. The young wife felt trapped, and in August sent a voice message to a friend saying she wanted to die, hated her life, and no longer wanted to be Shakil's wife. On the other hand, her relatives claimed that Samia boasted to everyone in Bradford about her lavish wedding and claimed to be happy in her marriage. Otherwise, why would she voluntarily fly back to Pakistan to Shakil if she was unhappy? These conflicting accounts indicated that the marriage was not as smooth as it seemed. After 6 months of living with her husband in Pakistan, Samia returned to the United Kingdom. This time her friends saw the old Samia, cheerful, happy, smiling, and sociable. But there was a reason for this. The young woman told her friends that she'd met a man named Syed Mukhtar Kazim, whom her friends called Ali. Meeting Ali and the secret second marriage, Ali was also from Pakistan, but had British citizenship and worked in Dubai. They initially met online and became friends. Then they met in person in London in October 2013 and immediately felt a mutual attraction. Ali embodied everything Samia wanted in a husband. He was loving, caring, and kind. He understood her perfectly, and his feelings were mutual. Samia told Ali about her current situation, how she had married someone she considered a brother, and who controlled her. Ali could not understand how a loving father could turn his own daughter into an object for sale or exchange. Samia knew she wanted to be with Ali, spend her life with him, have children, and grow old together. For this, she needed to divorce Shakil. She could not divorce through a British court as their marriage was not registered under British law. Samia and Shakil married under Sharia laws, so they had to divorce according to Muslim customs. In May 2014, Samia asked Shakil for a divorce, but he refused. According to Sharia principles, for a marriage to be valid, both the bride and groom must give mutual consent. If it turns out that one of them agreed to the ceremony under any physical, financial, psychological, or emotional coercion, the marriage can be considered forced and annulled. Samia approached the Islamic Sharia Council of the United Kingdom. She also converted from Sunni to Shia Islam, a branch of Islam Ali followed. She then visited a mosque to speak with a spiritual leader. Under oath, Samia told him that her first marriage was forced, entered into without her free will and under family pressure. After receiving this information, the cleric wrote to Samia's husband, asking for his version of events. But Shakil refused to discuss their marriage, leading Mr. Kazmi, who handled the case, to declare Samia and Shakil's marriage invalid. Several friends were with Samia when she signed the divorce papers. At that time, her family did not even know what was happening. This was strange considering she lived in her parents' house in Bradford. Soon, Samia and Ali planned and organized their own wedding day. They secretly married in September 2014 in Leeds, with only a few friends present to help the couple prepare for the ceremony of the two lovers. The nikah ceremony was conducted by the same cleric, Mr. Kazmi, who granted her divorce from Shakil. Samia and Ali's wedding day was a joyful one. The bride confessed to a friend that she felt like a princess and truly radiated happiness. The couple also registered their marriage at the registry office of the United Kingdom. Conflict with the family. Shortly after this, in October 2014, when Samia was walking down the street with her cousin, she was attacked by some men in an alleyway. Strangely, only Samia was injured. She was beaten on the legs with metal sticks. It was evident that the attack was premeditated, and the victim was chosen not by chance. The girls immediately reported the attack and injuries to the police. Samia's legs were covered in red and purple bruises. This attack was likely orchestrated by people who knew her family and was probably related to her marriage to Ali. The secret had apparently been revealed. At that time, her new husband was supposed to return to work in Dubai, and his young wife stayed in Bradford, waiting for a visa to join him later. It seems the Shahid family learned about the attack on their daughter from a phone call when she called her parents from the police station. But instead of support, she faced a barrage of insults. The police heard the entire conversation, while Samia's mother, Imtiaz, was unaware that others were listening. Samia did this intentionally to show the police the toxic environment she had been living in recently. She felt like a prisoner in a house where she once was happy, enduring unpleasant words from people she loved more than life. Samia's parents only found out about her divorce from Shakil in May 2015 and strongly disapproved of her actions. At least until then, they did not voice their suspicions aloud. They claimed that the divorce was invalid because the Islamic Sharia Council had no legal authority in the United Kingdom or Pakistan. Therefore, in their opinion, Samia was still legally married to Shakil. Her mother expressed the most dissatisfaction. Imtiaz repeatedly shamed her daughter, telling her to be ashamed and not disgrace the family. Moving to Dubai and life with Ali. When Ali returned to Dubai, he hoped the situation would calm down. However, the couple knew they would never be safe if they stayed in Bradford. Family disapproval could lead to tragedy. There are many stories of honor-related crimes. Fortunately, Samia received a visa to move to Dubai that same month. Several friends helped her secretly buy a ticket and prepare for departure. Once the documents were ready, Samia boarded the plane and flew to Ali the next day. It was a difficult decision, considering how much she loved her family. But for the first time, she went against her loved one's wishes for her own happiness, hoping this sacrifice would be justified. As soon as Samia left for Dubai, her parents reported her disappearance to the police. The family simply could not accept that she had made her own choice and ignored their opinions. When they learned about their daughter's secret marriage, they considered the second marriage fictitious. They went to the Shia mosque priest, Mr. Kazmi, demanding explanations. They refused to listen to any reasonable arguments and equated their daughter's relationship with Ali to adultery, believing that under Islamic law, she was still married to Shakil. The Shahid family even went as far as threatening the priest for assisting in Samia's sin. Mr. Kazmi informed the police of the threats, and the authorities gave him some safety advice. During that time, Samia was incredibly joyful in Dubai. She cherished a carefree, liberated life filled with love. She drove, cooked, and was deeply enamored with her husband Ali. Samia openly shared her happiness on social media. They couldn't wait to become parents. Samia yearned to have a child and become a mother as soon as possible. Simultaneously, she couldn't let go of her family and desired to exist in both worlds, in Bradford and Dubai. Samia always dreamt of raising her future children in the United Kingdom. She wanted them to become British citizens. She spent almost her entire conscious life in England, surrounded by a large family, and couldn't imagine that the tension between her and her loved ones would last a lifetime. Almost every day, Samia spoke with her parents, trying to convince them that she was not at fault and simply wanted to be happy. Every moment of her marriage to Shakil was burdensome. She wished for her parents to love Ali as deeply as she did and accept her choice. Above all, Samia dreamed of seeing her father with Ali, but unfortunately, her dreams were not destined to come true. The fatal trip to Pakistan. In June 2016, Samia learned that Shakil's mother, her aunt, had passed away. Samia was deeply saddened. She loved her aunt and wanted to travel to Pakistan for the funeral. However, she knew the trip would be risky and dangerous, especially since many, including Shakil's relatives, believed she had disrespected them and brought shame to the family. Ali advised against going, and she agreed it was better to stay in Dubai. Samia's father, Mohammed, was also struggling with health issues. He suffered from diabetes. One day, Samia received a call from her mother and sister, Madiha. They said that during their stay in Pakistan, their father's health had significantly deteriorated, and he might not have much time left. Samia would never forgive herself if her father passed away without saying goodbye to her. So, after much contemplation, she made the final decision to go to Pakistan. Ali disagreed with her choice. He was deeply saddened, but felt helpless. After all, it was her father. How could he stop her? If something happened to Chaudhry Mohammed and she wasn't there, Samia would never forgive herself. Moreover, Madiha had already booked her a plane ticket. Feeling immense fear for his wife, Ali eventually drove her to the airport. He said she could still change her mind. Excited about reuniting with her loved ones, whom she hadn't seen in a long time, Samia assured her husband that everything would be fine. They bid farewell. Samia boarded the plane and on July 14, 2016, flew to Pakistan. Before departure, she sent a message to a friend saying, "Pray for my safe return." In Pakistan, Samia stayed at a friend's house. She left her documents and return ticket there for safekeeping. Throughout her stay, she constantly kept in touch with Ali, assuring him of her safety. During her time in Pakistan, she spent time with her family. On July 18th, she visited her aunt's grave with her father. On July 19th, Ali told her about a bad dream he had, to which she replied asking him to pray for her safe return to Dubai. She was supposed to return home in 2 days, but on July 20th, Samia stopped responding to messages. Ali's messages went unread, and this silence greatly troubled him. Samia's death and initial investigation. That evening, the distraught husband called the Pandora police station to report his daughter's death. When the police arrived at the given address, they found the woman's body at the foot of the stairs. She was dead, and it was Samia. Her shoes lay nearby, her purse was by her feet, and her face was covered with a black scarf. Her eyes were closed, and foam was coming out of her mouth. The man who called identified himself as Samia's father, Mohammed. He told the officers that his daughter lived in this house with her husband, Shakil, and pointed to the stairs from which she allegedly fell and died. When asked about Shakil's whereabouts, the father shrugged and said he didn't know. No one had seen him since Samia's death. A few hours later, Samia's mother and sister arrived in Pakistan upon learning of her death. An autopsy was promptly conducted, after which the young woman's body was handed over to her relatives. The Shaheed family buried Samia on the same day she died. Since the police report stated that no injuries or visible signs of violence were found on the body, her death was not considered suspicious. Hasty burials are not uncommon, as Muslim traditions and Sharia law require immediate burial if there are no disputes over the cause of death. News of Samia's death quickly spread, but the reports were conflicting. Some said the young woman died from a heart attack or asthma attack, while others claimed she fell down the stairs and broke her neck. Local news agencies reported that Samia committed suicide due to severe depression from not having children, but her family denied this claim. Ali received a call from Samia's cousin, who informed him that she died from a heart attack. Initially, Ali didn't believe it, thinking it was a sick joke, an attempt to keep her in Pakistan. He took the first flight to be with his wife. When Ali realized that Samia had indeed passed away, he went to the Pandora police station and reported that his wife had been murdered. Ali explained how Samia left her first husband, Shakil, and how her family was furious about it. His account clearly changed the police's view of Samia's death. They speculated it could have been an honor killing, but they couldn't do anything as the body had already been buried. Investigation and legal procedures. As news of the young British woman's mysterious death spread in England, representatives from a news channel contacted Samia's father, Muhammad. In an interview, he insisted that his daughter was happy in her marriage and that her husband's name was Shakil. He completely denied the existence of Ali, calling him a blackmailer. Eventually, Ali obtained a copy of Samia's autopsy report. It stated that a reddish-brown bruise was found on her neck, and the cause of death was listed as strangulation. Male sperm was also found inside her body. There are suspicions that the police were initially bribed to cover up the true cause of Samia Shahid's death. Ali immediately held a press conference in Pakistan, showing the media photographs of the bruise on his wife's neck. He wanted what happened to Samia to be widely known so he could find out how she died and who was responsible. After this, Ali demanded round-the-clock police protection as he began receiving numerous death threats. Friends of Samia in the United Kingdom also actively engaged. They reached out to a member of parliament from Bradford, Nas Shah, through their acquaintances. The parliamentarian directly wrote to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, informing about Samia's death and daring to label it an honor killing. Only then did the Pakistani police begin a thorough investigation into Samia Shahid's death. Nas Shah's intervention had little impact. 2 people from Bradford were arrested for threatening the parliamentarian. 8 days after Shakil's escape, he was found and brought in for questioning along with Samia's father, Chaudhry Muhammad. Shakil confessed that he wanted to force his wife to annul her marriage to Ali and stay with him in Pakistan. He was enraged that she had left him and prevented him from moving to the UK. On the morning of July 20th, he searched Samia's belongings for her passport and return ticket, but found nothing. Shakil tried to stop her from returning, but Samia refused. Enraged, he pushed her onto the bed and raped her. His semen was found inside her body. Samia then tried to escape from the house, where she felt trapped during their marriage. But her ex-husband caught up with her, wrapped a scarf around her neck and strangled her. Her father denied any involvement. This time, the police did not believe the story of a happy marriage. Investigators believed that both the Shahid and Shakil families looked down on Samia's attempt to divorce, marry a non-Sunni Muslim man, and escape with him to Dubai, thereby ruining Shakil's chances of moving to the UK and disgracing the family. Consequences and unresolved questions. In September 2018, after 2 years in custody, Shakil was released on bail. Despite his confession to the police, it was insufficient for a conviction in Pakistan. In 2019, he remarried a British Pakistani woman and applied for a spousal visa to enter the UK, as that was his ultimate goal. However, MP Nas Shah ensured the rejection of his visa application. After 4 months in detention, Chaudhry Muhammad Shahid, Samia's father, appealed to the Supreme Court and was released due to insufficient evidence. The court deemed the evidence insufficient to keep him in custody. In January 2018, he was hospitalized for kidney failure and passed away in a Lahore hospital at the age of 52. In October 2016, arrest warrants were issued for Samia's mother and sister, but they managed to return to the UK. From there, Madiha provided a completely different version of events. She claimed that their family was free and their parents never forced them into anything. Instead, Samia often complained to her about life with Ali, saying he took all her money and she lived in hardship in Dubai. She even sent photos showing that her life was far from luxurious. It seemed that Samia had a different view of her life in Dubai. Madiha believed that these accusations destroyed their family, tarnished their reputation, and led them into poverty due to false statements. Legacy and reflections. Regardless of the different versions of events, it does not change the tragic fact that a young woman was sent to her death at the peak of her life by those she trusted and loved. Samia Shahid deserved the chance to make her own choices, regardless of whether she made mistakes or not. No one has the right to take another's life. Samia's story has impacted many lives. Ali says Samia made him whole. His life will never be the same again. Samia's friends will also never be the same. They seek justice for Samia, to bring the truth about her murder to light. What Samia did was not a crime. It is normal to fall in love and make plans for the future. It is difficult to know the truth about the situation Samia lived in. Her sister Marital claims they were free and never forced into anything by their culture or family. That Samia allegedly sent her messages, which she shows. That living in Dubai, she did not lead a luxurious life. And Ali actually controlled Samia and took her income. That Dubai was not as she imagined it. And she simply was not happy there. Mariha says these accusations ruined their family, tarnished their reputation, and now they live in poverty due to all these false claims. While many others, including Ali and her friends, have a completely different view of the situation. Samia Shahid's case raised important questions about women's rights, cultural conflicts, and the concept of honor killings. It underscored the need for better protection of vulnerable individuals, especially women who may find themselves in similar situations. Additionally, this case highlighted the complexities of investigating transnational crimes and the need for improved international cooperation in such cases. Sanda was a 20-year-old engineering student at the Catholic University of Louvain, one of the most prestigious universities in Belgium. He was born in Belgium to an immigrant family. His father came from Senegal as a refugee a few years before Sanda was born, seeking to secure a better future for his family. Sanda's father worked in a factory, struggling to provide his two sons with a decent life in their new country. He worked overtime, studied the local language at night, and helped his sons with their homework, sacrificing his own sleep. His only wish was that his sons would succeed in life and have better opportunities than he did. From an early age, Sanda realized the importance of education and hard work. He realized that because of the color of their skin, he and his brother would have to work twice as hard to get the same respect and career opportunities as indigenous Belgians. Sanda had a close friend named Ferry, whom he had known since kindergarten. They lived within a 5-minute walk of each other and were inseparable. Together, they enjoyed cycling, manga, and dreamed of going to university, getting a good job, saving up money, and moving to Japan someday. They even made a promise to each other to remain best friends for life and travel together to the land of the rising sun. Sanda stood out among his peers for his natural talents. Whether it was solving complicated math problems or playing soccer, he amazed his friends with his abilities. Despite the fact that people often envy such gifted individuals, Sanda was a favorite because of his charisma and approachability, his ability to communicate and find a common language with everyone. After graduating from high school, Sanda entered the Catholic University of Louvain, becoming the first in his family to have the opportunity to study at such a prestigious university. This achievement filled his father with incredible pride, surpassing all his dreams. Although the university was only 30 minutes away from home, Sanda decided to live in a dormitory. He chose to major in civil engineering, having set his sights on a master's degree in the field from the start. Sanda, who seemed wiser than his years, was driven by a desire to make his father proud. His ambition was to complete his studies, find a high-paying job, and enable his father to retire, thus repaying him for all the sacrifices he had made for the children's future. Relocation was a student fraternity founded over 70 years ago at the Catholic University of Leuven. Its symbol was the Flemish lion, which emphasized the connection with local culture and traditions. This secret fraternity consisted exclusively of male students of law, engineering, and business, indicating its elitism and focus on future leaders in these fields. The Brotherhood had about 30 active members, most of whom came from influential and wealthy families. Relocation was considered one of the most coveted student associations at the university, and almost every student dreamed of becoming a part of it. However, they only accepted 2 or 3 newcomers each year, making membership extremely exclusive. There were many rumors surrounding the fraternity, which made it even more mysterious and attractive to students. It represented a kind of student aristocracy, wielding considerable influence not only at the university, but also beyond thanks to the connections of its members. The Brotherhood was known for its brutal initiations of newcomers. The selection process included 2 months of rigorous evaluation of candidates, followed by a final initiation lasting 3 days. During this period, the new recruits were subjected to constant physical and psychological abuse and were completely under the control of senior members of the Brotherhood. Initiation included a variety of humiliating and dangerous tasks. For example, pledges were forced to drink excessive amounts of alcohol, consume the urine of fraternity members, swallow live animals such as goldfish and mice, and stand in ice-cold water for long periods of time. These practices were justified as ways to test the commitment and endurance of pledges, but were in fact a form of abuse. Despite the dangerous nature of these initiations, they continued for years without serious intervention from university administrators or law enforcement. This demonstrated the fraternity's considerable influence and its ability to avoid responsibility for its actions. In 2018, Sanda was in his 3rd year of a 5-year civil engineering program. He was already thinking about finding a job after graduation, so he avoided actively participating in student parties, instead focusing on finding a promising job to support his family and pay his bills. Sanda was aware that his skin color could be an obstacle to obtaining a coveted position in a predominantly European, closely knit industry. He was under no illusions about the difficulty of this task. Armed with strong academic achievement, interpersonal skills, and tireless diligence, Sanda understood the importance of making vital connections. This realization led him to consider joining the Relocation fraternity, a group that was synonymous with prestige, social connections, exclusivity, and the critical contacts he needed for his career. In a world that values not only merit, but also influential connections, this seemed like a strategic move. Sanda's decision to apply surprised his friends, with the exception of his older brother, who saw the potential career benefits of such societies. His childhood friend Ferry, who believed in Sanda's natural sociability and friendliness, was initially skeptical of these fraternities and even tried to talk Sanda out of what he considered a dangerous move. For Dia, the decision to join Relocation was not spontaneous. He carefully weighed the advantages and disadvantages before making the decision, with only 2 years left in the program. In 2018, Sanda was one of 10 students who successfully passed Relocation's rigorous selection process. Of these 10, only 3, including Sanda, advanced to the final stage of initiation. The initial stage of initiation involved the filtering out of candidates by the regular members of the fraternity who did not match their interests, personality, or communication style. Narrowed down to 3, the real test was just beginning. A grueling 2 months of evaluation by an elite student panel, culminating in a lengthy initiation ceremony lasting 2 to 3 days. During this period, the new recruits were constantly subjected to sophisticated abuse, continuously, without interruption, completely at the mercy of the fraternity members. Sanda knew of the harsh trials that lay ahead. He had heard stories of cruel initiation rituals. Nevertheless, he was ready to endure all the inconveniences and disgusting trials for the sake of a promising future, as were the other 2 candidates. Dia realized that the process would be difficult, including ridicule and testing their limits. However, no one expects to risk their lives in such situations. Sanda discussed this with a friend on campus, a member of another fraternity, who did not know the specifics of Relocation's initiation practices. This friend portrayed the initiation as simply a test of physical endurance, loyalty to future fraternity brothers, and discipline. Although it was unpleasant, he considered it a necessary and ultimately worthwhile experience. Sanda found the mandatory meetings unbearable, especially because he was forced to consume excessive amounts of alcohol. Even more disturbing was that he was forced to drink the urine of fraternity members as part of the initiation. Dia, along with other newcomers, was constantly subjected to verbal and psychological torture. However, Dia was subjected to the most severe hardships. He was ridiculed for his skin color. In October 2018, a few months before the final ritual, the Brotherhood organized a significant event in the Student Union building. The applicants were forced to kneel while regular members of Relocation took turns forcing them to swallow strong spirits or several liters of beer continuously. Naturally, After consuming such a volume of alcohol, the newcomers could barely stand, but they were still forced to clean the premises. In their disoriented state, they staggered around on the floor, wiping up their own and other people's vomit. That evening, all 3 newcomers were required to clean up, but the brothers came up with a different plan. They decided that Sanda should clean up after the celebration on his own, because historically, people with dark skin served white people. It was a cruel statement, but Dia felt powerless at that moment because he was determined to achieve his goal. The representative of the student association tried to rebuke the young people for their remarks, but what could he do against 20 rich, noble, influential, and spoiled young men? They were not afraid of anyone, and did it openly, without any sense of shame, because the members of the Brotherhood considered themselves superior to everyone else. They simply warned the officer not to interfere in their affairs. Sanda tried hard to gain acceptance given his future prospects, but at 20 years old, he was still essentially naive. Despite this horrific event, Dia continued to attend fraternity meetings. Some may ask why Dia continued to seek the company of these men. His reasons were multifaceted. First, he had played soccer with some of them and had friendly conversations. Second, Sanda was acutely aware of the great sacrifices his father had made for his education, and he vowed to live up to those expectations. The student cherished the hope that the humiliation would end as soon as he overcame the last obstacle. In the more than 70 years of Relocation's history, only 2 members have been of African descent, and only one of them was alive at the time. A black student was admitted in 2015, and Sanda was to be the second to go through the final initiation ritual. The final initiation, also called baptism, was about to begin. Everything that the newcomers had experienced up to that point was insignificant compared to the test that awaited them that weekend. On December 4, 2018, the initiation began. At 16 o'clock, the first test began. Sanda and the other 2 candidates put on long white robes and went to town with bouquets of flowers. Their task was to sell as many flowers as possible. The one who sold the fewest would be subjected to various punishments, such as drinking sour milk, birdseed, and, inevitably, forced alcohol consumption. Sanda came in last place, selling 30 fewer roses than his peers, which led to his punishment. He drank such an excessive amount of alcohol that his speech became severely impaired. At the second stage of the initiation, the newcomers were brought to their knees and asked simple questions. By 19 o'clock, the members of the Brotherhood did not care that Dia could not formulate clear answers. Predictably, he performed worse than the others and was subjected to further punishment. At the end of this stage, he was forced to drink 1.5 bottles of gin. His body, not used to heavy drinking, began to react violently. His stomach contained only alcohol. Sanda's face turned ashen. He could not stand, speak, or move on his own, teetering on the brink of dehydration and constantly losing consciousness. It is striking that all these events unfolded in a public place. According to one of the members of the Brotherhood, the second test took place right on the sidewalk in front of a cafe in the town square. However, none of the passers-by intervened. They did not inform the authorities or call a police patrol. At 21 o'clock, the third test, called Endure the Night, began. The newcomers were dragged back to the dormitory, where the 18 fraternity brothers resumed their incessant abuse. The task was to drink as many mugs of beer as possible. By the end of the test, all 3 participants had lost consciousness. They were breathing but did not respond to any attempts to wake them up. However, their unconscious state did not exempt them from further abuse. According to the custom of the Brotherhood, if someone fainted at a meeting, they urinated on him. The brothers saw this as a sign of weakness and an opportunity to demonstrate their dominance. The evidence of these actions was recorded on a video shot at 2340, which they later tried to erase. After the first day of the competition, the 3 new initiates were dragged to their rooms and unceremoniously dumped on their beds, with the water supply turned off. For fun, their belongings were spoiled with ketchup and chocolate, and the doors were locked. This meant that if any of the boys came to after consuming such a lethal amount of alcohol, they would not even have access to water to quench their thirst. It was only the first day of initiation at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. However, the worst tests were yet to come. The next day, December 5th, 2018, at about 10:30 a.m., the members of the fraternity were preparing to move on to the final stages of the grueling initiation. They woke up the three initiates, put them in cars, and drove them out of town to a remote village about an hour away. One of the members of the Brotherhood owned a small cottage there, surrounded by dense forest, which was ideal for hiding their activities. On the way, they made several stops to purchase items needed for the ceremony. The students bought aquarium fish, eels, live rodents, as well as bird and dog food from a pet store. Then they visited a supermarket and bought fish sauce, which is commonly used in Asian cuisine to enhance flavor. It has a high sodium content, approximately 16 to 70 milligrams per tablespoon, which is almost 70% of the recommended daily intake, and is not usually consumed in large quantities. They also bought duck eggs, sardines, clams, shrimp paste, mussels, and other foods. During one of these stops, they met a teacher who noticed that one of the students clearly needed help. She expressed her concerns to the frat members and even suggested calling the police. However, the students convincingly reassured the professor, claiming that Sanda was simply drunk and in shock. They assured her that the initiation was over, and they intended to sober him up with a cold bath. Dismissing the professor's fears, the group continued to the hut in the forest. The details of the subsequent events were reconstructed by the police using recovered deleted video footage and limited evidence. The full truth about what happened in that forest remains unknown. Over the course of several hours, the three initiates were forced to dig a large trench in which they were subsequently placed. As the initiates struggled to keep warm, other members of the Brotherhood, a group of 18 young adult men, surrounded the hole. They filled it with ice water and live eels. In Belgium, the average temperature in December ranges from +3 to +7 degrees Celsius. When the initiates became cold, regular members of the Brotherhood would urinate on top of them as a perverse way to warm them. At this point, Sanda was suffering from dehydration and was still drunk from the events of the previous night. Even if he had the will to get up and leave, his physical condition made it impossible. Under normal circumstances, to formally withdraw from the initiation process, one would simply ring a bell located away from the trench, thereby relinquishing one's place in the Brotherhood. Initiates could access this bell at any time, but in this case, the bell was intentionally or accidentally missed, leaving Sandu without a means of signaling his refusal to be initiated. His inability to stand up or speak due to his condition rendered him powerless. The three drunken, tired boys sat in the freezing water, subjected to urination and defecation acts by older members of the fraternity. Then they were forced to bite off the heads of live mice and eels in the water, and then drink fish sauce. After more than 6 hours in such brutal conditions, Sanda's body began to fail, and he began to lose consciousness. They pulled him out of the water, dressed him in dry clothes, and put him by the fire. As he curled up on the grass, remaining in the fetal position for 2 hours, the initiation rituals continued around him. Instead of getting medical attention, students documented the situation with photos and videos, while Sanda made disturbing sounds indicating excruciating pain. Excessive sodium intake caused Sanda's blood pressure to rise severely, leading to a nosebleed, and he became completely out of contact. At 20:57, a senior member of the fraternity finally decided to contact the emergency services. Following their advice, the students transported the unconscious Sandu to the hospital. To avoid contaminating the car's interior, they placed his body in the trunk. After arriving at the emergency room, the fraternity members withheld important information from the medical team regarding Sanda's recent diet and alcohol consumption. Leaving him in the care of hospital staff, they drove away with the intention of resuming the initiation after his discharge, an action that left Sanda with no real chance of recovery. While medical specialists were conducting tests and trying to find out the cause of his condition, Sanda's organs began to fail. Due to the severity of his condition, he was transferred to the University Hospital of Antwerp, which had better facilities. There, Sanda's heart stopped functioning. He fell into a coma, and later the 20-year-old tragically lost his life. The main cause of death was determined to be the toxic level of sodium in his body, which was a direct result of excessive consumption of fish sauce. The hospital notified the police, which prompted an immediate investigation into the circumstances of his death. By 2240, 2 other initiates who were continuing the initiation ritual were also hospitalized. Upon learning of their children's critical condition, their parents rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, members of the Brotherhood hastily worked to destroy any evidence of the initiation. They filled in the trench that had been used for the tests, cleaned the room that had been contaminated with ketchup and chocolate, restored the water supply, and deleted compromising messages, photos, and videos from their phones. When the police arrived at the scene, no physical evidence remained. However, investigators were later able to recover deleted data from the mobile devices. Despite the recovery of this evidence, the investigation faced significant obstacles. The children involved belonged to influential families whose parents quickly sought legal representation. While the evidence implicating the 18 fraternity members in Sanda's death grew stronger, the investigation was lengthy and met with constant obstruction from influential parents. All 18 students deleted their social media profiles and limited their communication, communicating only through their lawyers. After the tragedy of Sanda's death, the Relocation fraternity was disbanded. The university imposed disciplinary sanctions on all those involved, requiring them to perform 30 hours of community service and write an essay on the role of tradition in student organizations. Surprisingly, none of the participants were expelled from the university. The 18 people involved in the incident graduated without significant consequences. In response to this outcome, professors aware of the situation wrote an open letter advocating for harsher penalties for the group, but no additional action was taken against these students. The formal legal process ended in July 2020. After that, the lawyers representing the 2 members of Relocation demanded further investigations. Apparently, this was a tactic to reinterpret the entire incident as a tragic accident and attribute blame to the deceased student for his allegedly poor health. It was only on May 26, 2023, that the Antwerp Court of Appeal delivered its verdict, finding 18 members of the fraternity guilty of manslaughter and humiliating treatment. Each was fined €400 and sentenced to perform community service. In addition, they were collectively ordered to pay approximately €30,000 in compensation to Dia's family. To avoid affecting their future prospects, the students' identities were concealed. The leniency of the sentence for those responsible for Sanda's death caused widespread discontent, leading to protests in various cities. Despite these demonstrations, no significant changes have been reported as a result. In this case, the lack of justice remains a painful aspect of the story. Many people expressed their outrage on social media and in the media, considering the sentence too lenient for such a serious crime. Some commentators pointed out that the case exposed deep problems in Belgian society, including racism and class inequality. They argued that if Sanda had been white and from a wealthy family, the outcome might have been different. Others drew attention to the culture of student fraternities and the need for stricter regulation of their activities. They called on universities to take greater responsibility for the safety of their students and to introduce stricter rules regarding initiations and other potentially dangerous practices. Sanda's family expressed their disappointment that not all of their questions were answered, including who provided the fish sauce that proved fatal. They also expressed their dissatisfaction that the identities of the perpetrators were concealed, believing that this protected them from full accountability for their actions.